Hey, what's up everyone? So today's case will leave you sad and probably angry, and unfortunately, there's nothing you can do. But I hope that by sharing this story, we can prevent something similar from happening. So this story involves Jennifer Hart and her wife, Sarah Hart, and their 6 adopted children, Sierra, Abigail, Jeremiah, Devonte, Hannah, and Marcus. This was an extreme case of a family trying to portray a reality to their friends and to the outside world that wasn't actually true with what was going on. This is the situation they tried to portray. I found this video on the mother Jennifer's YouTube channel.
You ready?
Yes.
Get him. Get him.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
That was a real snake. I was excited.
Whoa. Try again. Can you try not to throw him this time?
Yes. Funny. It feels like he's trying to kiss me.
Oh, maybe he loves you.
So they portrayed themselves as this loving, blended family who loves outdoor adventures. They apparently went to lots of festivals. They were all about peace, unity, the environment, social justice. Speaking of social justice, if any of these kids look vaguely familiar to you, it's because this picture of little Devonte hugging a police officer during a Black Lives Matter event during the Ferguson race riots went viral around the country. Friends envied this progressive family. The 2 women seemed so in love. They were so nice to take these poor black children in, to give them a better life. Plus, the family was so photogenic. But as we all know, social media isn't reality, and the Hart family their friends knew was just a big lie. So let's start from the beginning. Both Jennifer Hart and Sarah Gangler were both born in 1979 in rural South Dakota. They had similar backgrounds. Both were the eldest of their siblings and did well in school. Both women went off to college with the goal of becoming teachers. Sarah was specializing in special education though. The 2 women met in 1999 in a class at Northern State University. They became friends and quickly a romance began. Because of the time period and their rural location, the women thought it best to keep their relationship in the closet. They told everyone they were best friends or roommates. Jennifer was caught shoplifting and dropped out of college before she could get her degree. Sarah, however, graduated in 2002. After graduation, the couple came out to friends and family. According to a Facebook post by Jen, they were both disowned by their families and lost a lot of friends. However, Jen's family would later say this was not true, and they were accepting of the relationship. As we will see, Jen instantly cuts people out of her life when they upset her, claiming the people are prejudiced. So these claims should be taken with a grain of salt. In any case, in 2004, the women moved to Alexandria, Minnesota. The women both got jobs at Herberger's, a large department store in the area. Co-workers described Sarah as quiet and being careful to follow rules as she wanted to move up to management. Jen was the opposite. Co-workers admitted she was funny, but also loud and abrasive. Jen loved to break rules and seeking attention. She once took a hacksaw and sawed the nipples off of a female mannequin because she thought they were sexist. In 2004, the women took in their first foster child, a 15-year-old black girl named Lee. One of the Hart's friends was having trouble raising Lee, so the Hart women filled out paperwork to become foster parents and took the girl in. The Harts started complaining about Lee to co-workers and friends almost immediately, saying she ate out of the trash. Lee had documented problems adjusting to life with the Harts. One of the main problems was that the girl used wire hangers, which upset Jen. Lee said she argued with Jen the most, mostly over petty things. One time, Jen and Lee went to a Packers game with footballs, hoping to get them signed by one of Jen's favorite players, Amon Green. After the game, the football player signed the team's football, but not Jen's. Jen ignored Lee for days because of this slight, but Lee said life with the Harts wasn't all bad. We went camping, we went to events, we kept busy. We did a lot of things I hadn't really done before, Lee said. The Harts told the girl she had a home with them till college. They told Lee they were adopting 3 foster children and got Lee excited to be a big sister. Then, one day, the Harts took Lee to a therapist appointment and never came back to pick her up. A week later, in September 2006, the women adopted 3 children through the Texas foster care system. There was 7-year-old Marcus, 4-year-old Hannah, and 2-year-old Abigail. The 3 were siblings and considered hard to place. So, Jen posted to Facebook about her first night as a mom.
Abigail urinated everywhere. AM'd gashed her chin falling down the stairs. Hannah smeared feces on the wall and gorged herself with food until she needed the Heimlich and had episodes of projectile vomiting. Marcus hit his head on a closet wall and in multiple voices claimed to be possessed by demons. But Sarah and I are committed to healing these kids over time. If not us, who?
The women eventually adopted the 3 children and changed their last name to Hart. Jen quit her job to become a full-time mom. Sarah didn't make a lot of money, though, so the couple depended on state money they got for adopting the kids. Despite Jen quitting her job to become a full-time mom, she wasn't much of one. She played online video games for over 5 hours a day. Not long after the adoption, the Hart family had their picture on an adoption agency website. The children they would eventually adopt, Sierra, Devontae, and Jeremiah, had a heartbreaking backstory. The 3 siblings were removed from the custody of their mother, Sherry Davis, when they were infants because she had a crack addiction. The children were placed with Sherry's husband, Nathaniel Davis. The children were removed from Nathaniel's custody too, though because of his relationship with Sherry. The state feared he may leave the kids alone with Sherry. Luckily, the kids' aunt, Priscilla Celestine, petitioned the court for custody of the kids. Priscilla was 58, but she had a stable job, did not drink or use drugs, and spent most of her time at home when she wasn't at work or church. She even bought a bigger house to take care of the kids in. Priscilla gave the kids a great life until one day she made a fateful mistake. Priscilla was called into an extra shift at work, and since she had no babysitters arranged, she left the kids with their mom, Sherry, while she worked that day. That day, a CPS worker made a random visit to the home. The same day, the 3 siblings were removed from Priscilla's custody. Within 6 months, Sierra, Devontae, and Jeremiah were all living with the Hart family. They hadn't been adopted yet, but were staying there as foster children. During this time in 2008, Hannah Hart showed up to school with bruises on her arm. Hannah said Jennifer hit her with a belt. The Harts told the school Hannah had fallen down the stairs and no charges were pressed. Still, the moms pulled all 6 kids out of school to, quote, homeschool them. They re-enrolled the kids back in school a year later. Despite the abuse allegation the adoption of the 3 other kids went through, Aunt Priscilla was devastated by the adoption. She worked with a lawyer to try to gain back custody. She asked for information about the adoption and background checks on the family. She was told the adoption was closed and they couldn't tell her anything. So the ball was really dropped by a lot of people. The system really failed these kids, and it's just so sad all around. Friends and family grew concerned over the women's parenting. The kids rarely spoke and seemed zombie-like. When family photos were taken, the kids lit up and smiled, but as soon as the photo shoots were over, they went back to being zombie-like. Friends witnessed Jennifer withholding food as punishment. Whenever anyone brought their concerns to Jennifer or Sarah, Jen quickly cut them out of their family's life for good. In fact, Jen's parents, whom she claimed disowned her because of her sexuality, would later say Jen cut off contact with them after they raised concerns about her parenting. Then in 2010, Abigail, who is 6 years old at that time, showed up to school with bruises, and she had a more horrific story to tell the police. She said that her mom, Jennifer, hit her with a closed fist, then dunked her head under cold bath water and then hit her again with a closed fist. This was to punish her because Jen thought she had stolen a penny. Jen wouldn't let her have breakfast or lunch and made her stay in bed all day. Police interviewed all the Hart kids. They admitted they were spanked often, not given food, and grounded in their rooms for hours. The school reported 6 other incidents to DHS, the kids were asking other students for food and going through trash to look for food to eat. 2 family friends stated that the children were forced to raise their hands before speaking, could not wish each other a happy birthday, and could not laugh at the dinner table. There were other reports that the children were poorly fed and looked small for their ages. One family friend reported that Jennifer had ordered a pizza for the children, but each was only allowed to have a small slice. When Jennifer discovered that the pizza was gone, she punished the children by not feeding them breakfast and forcing them to lie on their bed for 5 hours. Friends also stated that the children acted scared to death of Jen and likened them to trained robots. So CPS went over there and interviewed the children. They said that the children acted like they were being coached on what to say. Jen told agents that any family problems were the results of others not being tolerant to 2 lesbian mothers with 6 African American children. But since they wouldn't admit that anything was wrong, they claimed that there was nothing that they could really do, and that was that. Sarah pled guilty to beating Abigail, even though the child claimed Jen had done it. She got charged with a misdemeanor and was given probation and community service. Were the kids taken, though? Of course not. Loving Aunt Priscilla had the kids taken from her after making the mistake of leaving the kids with their mom when she went to work once. But these nice white ladies could literally beat and starve the children with little consequence. Something is very wrong with the system. After this incident, all of the Hart children were pulled out of school again for good. Jen told friends she pulled them out of school because the kids were being bullied for their race. In 2013, the Harts moved again, this time to West Lynn, Oregon, a suburb of Portland. The house was in the country. They had lots of land with goats and chickens. Jen was active on social media, posting inspiring pictures of her with the kids at nature reserves and music festivals. Some of the festivals, well, they were a bit weird. Hey, Most people only knew the family from music festivals or from their carefully crafted social media. Some friends who got to spend time with the family at their home were disturbed by what they saw and again contacted DHS. One friend reported that Jen treated the children like animals. Another said that when the children would misbehave, Jen would snap her fingers and say, "No food for you." They also said the children looked malnourished. DHS contacted Sarah Hart, but she claimed the children were at a music festival with Jen. This would go on for months. DHS would try to set up a meeting with the family, but they would cancel at last minute. Eventually, 2 social workers showed up at the house, where they found all 6 children coloring at the kitchen table. They interviewed each child separately, but none of them complained of abuse. They talked about how grateful they were for the new lives the Harts had given them, and said how much they loved going to the music festivals. Jen told the investigators they were vegan, and that might be why people think the kids are skinny. Again, no charges were pressed. In December of 2013, Devontae was photographed hugging a police officer at a Black Lives Matter protest in Portland. The photo went viral. The cop would later say,
My colleague and I, Brian, we noticed that Devontae was in the crowd, in and amongst what ended up being some of his other siblings. They all had signs, and some said a variety of different things, but the one that we really kind of got a chuckle out of was Devontae's sign, which was fairly large, and it said "free hugs." And then as he got a little bit closer, he turned towards us, and I noticed tears flowing out of his eyes. And I said to Brian, I said, hey, I'm gonna call him over here and see what's wrong. He shook my hand, I introduced myself, hey, my name's Brett, what's your name? He told me Devontae, and we started talking, and the first question I asked him is, why are you crying? And I said, is everything okay? And he said he was sad, and he talked about being sad about a protest, kind of about national events. And so, you know, for a kid, which I perceived he was 10 to 12 years old, that's a pretty big pill to swallow and a lot to process. And so I wanted to bring him back to kid level and just reassure him that everything was going to be okay. And really all I could do was apologize. And hopefully my apology was going to be enough to help satisfy him, to show him that I do care. And I just kind of sighed and said, I'm sorry.
The photo was seen as a sign of racial unity and made national news. Many TV shows wanted Devontae on for interviews, but Jen refused, saying she wanted to protect her children's privacy. Jen's Facebook friends praised her for not exploiting her child. Jen claimed she was getting death threats from racists after the photo. No proof of this was ever found. Jen made a post warning friends not to post pictures of their children. Jen took a break from social media after this. In 2017, the family moved to Woodland, Washington. This new home was on 2 acres of land. The closest neighbors were a couple, Bruce and Dana DeKalb. They were older and retired, so they were home often. They said they never saw kids outside, and the blinds were always closed. They said hi to Sarah and Jen, but Jen was nasty.
I met with Jennifer a couple of times in regards to sharing the driveway, and she wasn't friendly at all. She was mean.
The DeKalbs were concerned that Hannah was still missing her front teeth, which she had lost in 2012.
Both of her teeth were missing, front teeth, and we questioned, you know, what's up with the teeth thing, and they said, well, she didn't want them replaced. We thought that was a little weird, but...
In August of 2017, the DeKalbs were awoken to someone knocking on their front door. It was Hannah Hart. She was wrapped in a blanket and seemed scared. She said she had jumped from the 2nd floor of the Hart family house and ran to the DeKalbs. Hannah begged Bruce DeKalb to hide her. Then she ran past him to wake up his wife, Dana. Hannah told Dana, "You gotta help us. Please don't send me back. They are racist. They abuse us. They whip us with a belt." Soon after, the DeKalbs saw flashlights and heard Hannah's name being called. Without permission, Jen and Sarah barged into the house. Jen found Hannah hiding behind the bed. Jen asked for a moment alone with Hannah in the bedroom, then Hannah walked downstairs like a robot. Jen made her apologize to Dana, which she did while looking straight ahead. The next morning, the entire Hart family showed up at the DeKalbs. Jen explained to Dana that all the adopted children were crack babies and sometimes acted out because of their troubled upbringing. Hannah Hart gave Dana a handwritten apology letter.
Dear Dana, Bruce, I stopped this morning because I feel awful about disturbing your peace and worrying you in the middle of the night. I was very frustrated with my brother and didn't handle things very maturely, and I'm sorry for telling lies to get attention. I'm working on being more honest and finding better ways to communicate my frustrations. I've been pretty sad about 2 of our cats dying recently, so I was just very sad and frustrated last night. Thank you for being kind. Hannah.
Dana asked to speak to Hannah alone, but Jen wouldn't allow it, saying, "We do everything as a family." Bruce DeKalb didn't want to get involved, but when Dana told her elderly father the story, he felt compelled to call 911.
Yeah, there's some kids that I feel is being highly abused, and I can't wait until Monday in Woodland, Washington.
What's the address?
Okay, I'm going to give you the address of my daughter's house because it's right next door.
Okay, and what's going on there?
Well, they have 4 black children, which that part doesn't matter, and they're new here in Texas. But the other night, a little girl jumped out of the second-story window on the roof and then down onto the ground and ran to my daughter, and this is like 2 in the morning, begging them to help her.
When did that happen?
About 3-4 nights ago.
Okay.
And my son-in-law doesn't want to get involved, but the more I sit on it, I just can't live with it. Somebody's got to go there and check on these kids.
And so how old was the little kid that did that ran to your daughter's house?
About 12 years old, 13. And when they came looking for her, she was begging my daughter not to let them know she was there. And then eventually my son-in-law let him know. And then she had all 4 of the kids come back later and to say everything was okay, and they were all standing at attention like they were just scared to death. And I think there's something very serious going on there. And they're here from Texas. The kids might even be kidnapped.
Okay. And so did the girl ever say why she was scared?
No, she was crying, and it was 2 in the morning, and my daughter said the biggest problem was she's half awake. She couldn't believe what was going on. And and basically, my son-in-law is like most people. They don't want to get involved. And so he's keeping my daughter out of it, but since she's told me about it, I just can't live with it. I'm very concerned for these kids. I just can't let this go any longer. Those kids, I think, is in very serious danger.
The agency followed up with Dana and told her there was nothing they could do. After that, though, Dana kept an eye on the Hart house. She noticed that the kids would walk single file into and out of the house. On the rare occasion they left the house. About 2 months later, Devontae asked Bruce DeKalb for tortillas. A few days later, he asked Dana for bread.
He said he was asking for a lot of food.
Yeah, a lot of food. I mean, it started out very,
tortillas, and it ended up a case of food. Multiple, cured meats, non-perishable food items.
Right.
And was asking that we not tell his mom and to, hide it and put it by the fence so he could get to it, and that they were withholding food from him as punishment.
Devontae admitted to Dana that everything Hannah told her that night was true. He said his moms were withholding food as punishment. Sarah had initially resisted this punishment, he said, but now she was going along with Jen. Dana took notes, and on March 23, 2018, she called CPS and made a report. That same day, a worker from CPS went to the Hart house and saw Jen's SUV pull in. The worker knocked on the door over and over, but no one answered. Jen, Sarah, and all the Hart children got into the SUV and fled that night. They drove down the Oregon coast into California. At 3 a.m., Sarah called her job to say she was sick and wouldn't be able to make it in. Jen was caught on camera buying groceries. She was also seen at a dollar store buying 6 toothbrushes and deodorant. Sarah was Googling things on her phone, things like, can 500 milligrams of Benadryl kill a 120-pound woman? Is death by drowning relatively painless? How long does it take to die from hypothermia while drowning in a car? She also searched for no-kill shelters. On Monday, Sarah still didn't show up at work, so a coworker called in a welfare check.
And who are we checking on?
Sarah Hart.
And how are you related to her?
Just a friend.
Tell me the reason that we're checking on her again.
She sent out a text message at 3 o'clock in the morning on Saturday morning stating that she was sick, but nobody's been able to get a hold of her or talk to her or seen her since that text message.
Okay.
Or her wife, which is Jen. So we're just concerned.
Okay, and did she say, when she said she was sick, did she say what was going on, or?
She just said that she just is unable to come out and wasn't able to go to work and thought she was going to have to go to the doctor. I checked the hospital, so they didn't have any record of her. And I think her phone is now dead.
And what is her phone number? Okay. And just the two of them live there, or?
And they have 6 children.
A couple hours after that call, German tourists told police they had spotted an SUV at the bottom of a 100-foot cliff on California State Route 1 in Mendocino County, California, near Westport. The bodies of Jen, Sarah, Marcus, Jeremiah, and Abigail were found in the car. Jen had been drunk, with her blood alcohol level being well over the legal limit. Records from the car's computer showed that Jen had stopped about 75 feet from the cliff, then floored the gas, making no attempt to brake.
Sheriff, I want to begin with you. We're starting to get at least a picture of where this family was before this horrible accident. Is that helping you in any way to figure out why the accident happened and where those 3 missing kids are?
Well, it's certainly helping us determine the route. I'm to the point where I no longer am calling this an accident. I'm calling it a crime. And the fact that the grocery store did have her on video buying multiple fruit pieces, multiple bananas, leads us to believe that she was at least buying some food for her family. And actually, we haven't released the name of the driver, but I'm prepared to do that. I just got off the phone with the CHP commander, and Jennifer, the same woman that was in the video from the grocery store, is the woman that we believe was driving the vehicle when it crashed.
Sheriff, that's so distressing on so many levels. Jennifer Hart, the driver, also pictured here in the supermarket. Who would know? I mean, who would think anything looking at this picture? And it just seems so normal. A mom buying bananas for the kids and getting back into the SUV. Can I ask you, do we know this because they were found strapped in those seatbelts at the crash site?
That is correct. The 2 adults were seatbelted in. The children were not seatbelted.
The remains of Hannah and Sierra were found near the crash site. The body of Devontae was never found. Autopsies showed that Sarah had taken an overdose of Benadryl. All of the children had high amounts of the drug in their systems. We can only hope the children were asleep when the car crashed. Autopsies showed that everyone likely died instantly, and they died of spinal cord injuries.
As news of the murder broke, friends of the Harts went to the media, expressing disbelief that the crash wasn't an accident.
We weren't duped. That love wasn't fake. They loved their children. They weren't white supremacists. They just were isolated. They were in pain. She was in constant anxiety.
Bakhtiar says Jennifer struggled after a photo of Devontae hugging a Portland police officer at a protest went viral.
After that picture happened with Devontae, Jen went into the deepest, darkest depression ever.
Jennifer texted that the backlash to the photo was traumatic, that people were stalking the house and leaving threats in their mailbox. She said that's why she had been, in her words, non-existent publicly, that she was working through some messed up stuff.
Now that I realize how serious it was, it's I just wish I had known to be well, let's get security cameras, or let's call somebody, or let's find remediation.
In another text sent last year, Jennifer told Bakhtiar that during the past 8 months, she had only texted 3 people, Bakhtiar, Sarah, and a stranger by accident. She said it had been the toughest year of her life. Still, Bakhtiar has a hard time believing the crash was intentional.
We loved them, they loved their children, they were spiritual, they were about nature, they loved animals, they were rescuers. I don't feel like I didn't know them.
They were that really bright kind of presence. It was pretty hard to miss them. Any event that I was at where they were, if I had a camera, I was, of course, attracted to that.
There was something about this family, Sarah and Jennifer Hart, and those 6 adopted children that photographer Zippy Lomax was almost immediately captivated by.
I was inspired by them. Jen and Sarah really were the kind of parents that I think the world desperately needs.
Nevertheless, a grand jury unanimously ruled the incident a murder-suicide. The Hart family tragedy is a heartbreaking story. It is a reminder that child abuse is a serious problem and that we need to do more to protect children. It is also a reminder that Child Protective Services is a flawed system. In the Hart case, Child Protective Services failed to protect the children, even though they knew they were being abused. We need to learn from the Hart family tragedy so that we can prevent similar tragedies from happening in the future. We need to make sure that Child Protective Services is adequately funded and that it has the resources it needs to protect children. We also need to raise awareness of child abuse so that we can all play a role in preventing it. If you see something, say something. Alright, thanks so much for watching. As always, I will see you very soon. Bye.